Hi, I'm Super Amped Elemental Discharge, or SAED for short. I have no idea why I chose that name. And this is my first video on this channel. I've been wanting to make a video about Monster Hunter since last year, but 2021 has been a very hard year for me. Everything sucks, life is an endless void. But anyway, I decided to make a video that will try to explain to people what Monster Hunter is, because I noticed that when I'm trying to invite my friends to play Monster Hunter, I always seem to find it hard to explain what Monster Hunter exactly is, despite its very straightforward title. So I'll try to explain it here as best as I can, and maybe you can share it with your friends, and maybe they'll find the series interesting and try it, which is always great. More so now that the PC port of Monster Hunter Rise is already out. I'm not sure, it's 12 AM. I'm not gonna buy it because I can. And also the expansion Sunbreak is coming out later this year. Before that, I just want to quickly share my history with the franchise. If you're not interested in that, you can skip to this time code somewhere on the screen where I finally stop rambling about myself. Okay, so Monster Hunter is a video game franchise from Capcom. The game on the surface is as straightforward as the title. You hunt monsters. The first Monster Hunter game I played was Monster Hunter for the PlayStation 2. I was a kid back then, so my underdeveloped brain couldn't handle how hard it was, because Monster Hunter games are hard, especially to newcomers. After that, I've only ever played demos of Monster Hunter Tri Ultimate and 4 Ultimate on the 3DS, which I enjoyed a lot and where I fell in love. The Charge Blade, hence my channel name. But couldn't buy any of the games yet because money. Although ever since last year when I tried out the demo for Monster Hunter Rise, where I again fell in love with the Charge Blade, I wanted more. I had the hunger for hunting monsters in Monster Hunter, so I bought World Iceborne, then Generations Ultimate, and finally Rise. I've been playing ever since, almost daily, almost religiously. Monster Hunter has eaten my life, taken my kids, and left me with nothing but a fork and a box of canned beans. Oh, wait, we're getting off topic here. Yikes. Although a lot of people may say it's very straightforward, including me, Monster Hunter, as simple as the concept may seem, is a very mechanically complicated game. That's the reason why some people might drop the game after trying it out. It's not something you can pick up and be, oh, I get it. You need a certain level of commitment to understand how to play Monster Hunter, and there's only very few games like it, especially when it comes to the older games where it's slower and it required more from the player when it came to the mechanics. Now it's a lot more fast-paced and players have more combat options, but that's another video for another day. Now, I understand that it's not for everyone. There's absolutely no shame if it isn't your thing, but I just want to help with people's misunderstanding of the game. I'll be discussing the three main aspects that I think makes Monster Hunter Monster Hunter: the weapons, the monsters, and the RPG. Wait, no, wrong RPG. No, Leon, no, stop, Leon, no! First off, the game has 14 different weapon types: sword and shield, greatsword, longsword, dual blades, charge blade, switch axe, insect glaive, hammer, hunting horn, lance, gunlance, bow, light bowgun, and heavy bowgun. Holy shit! Each with their own mechanics and difficulty in handling. This is mostly where the deeper gameplay of Monster Hunter comes from, because each weapon is so different from each other that it's like you're playing an entirely different game with each one. Every single one of these weapons have their own movesets, tactics, playstyle. I could go on all day about the intricacies of each weapon, but I won't. So you just have to take my word for it. What I will do is give you a quick rundown of each weapon and how they usually function in a hunt. I say usually because these weapons were designed with a specific role in mind, like the hunting horn supposedly being a support weapon, but the game gives you so much freedom that it's very easy to break out of those roles and be something entirely different from what the devs have in mind, and that just blows me away. It's unreal. I'll start with the weapons that are more beginner friendly. Sword and shield, the jack of all trades. Quick slash attacks, stunning shield bashes, blocking, and the unique ability to use items while your weapon is unsheathed, because in Monster Hunter you need to sheath your weapon first before you can use an item. Its combos are easy to get a grasp on, but it still has a very high skill ceiling, so mastering the weapon pays off very much and is super strong at the hands of a skilled player. Then again, any weapon is super strong at the hands of a skilled player. Longsword. I hate the longsword, man. Me and my homies hate the longsword users. Do not use this weapon, dear lord. Please, I could be putting on free meal or speed sharpening, but instead I got a quick flinch free just because one of these longsword bastards joined my team. Man, fuck Super Rad. I'm like the anti-Super Rad. Longsword sucks balls. Charge my rules, baby! Longsword is a very strong weapon that has a long reach, which is good for taller monsters, and there are a lot of tall monsters in these games. It also doesn't sacrifice much speed for the amount of damage that it does, which is good because it's a very aggressive weapon, and it rewards an aggressive playstyle by putting out more damage the more you attack the monster. Longsword currently is the strongest melee weapon in Rise, and it's very beginner friendly while still being capable of skillful play. Dual blades are the fastest weapons in the series. If you have the patience of an elderly woman ordering nachos at Taco Bell, then this weapon is for you. You hit a lot, you run fast, and it's like being on Sugar Rush the entire time, but you also sugar crash just as fast. So make sure to keep an eye on that stamina bar because it's gonna run out a lot. Lance is a very slow and safe weapon. If you have the patience of an elderly man ordering nachos at Taco Bell, then this weapon is for you. You move slow, which will require a bit of strategic positioning, but that shield of yours is strong as hell and will most probably brush off enemy attacks so that you can do a counter attack right after, provided that you have the adequate armor skills. All you gotta do with this weapon is poke, poke, block, run, and poke some more. That's all there is to it. And also, you gotta be really angry while using the lance. You know, like fucking angry. You need therapy after using lance for being angry all the time. Now, here are the weapons that are still fairly easy to learn, but ask the player to know a bit more about the game. Great Sword, the Big Daddy. A sword so huge you can use it to block attacks. I'd argue that the Great Sword is still an easy weapon to use due to its very straightforward moveset. Just charge up that attack and hit the monster. It's just that the hitting part is a lot harder to do because monsters in Monster Hunter move around a lot. And the Great Sword is slower than me on a bad hangover. Knowledge of the monster's attack patterns and careful positioning is required to do good damage using the Great Sword. That's why I wouldn't recommend it to be a newcomer's first weapon, but someone who likes heavy weapons in action games will get a kick out of this one. Hammer, the Knockout King, the big damage bonking machine. The main role of the hammer is to stun monsters and keep them down. Beginners can use this weapon too, but hammer users need to focus on the head, which is usually a dangerous place to be when fighting a monster, so a bit of skill is needed to be effective. Hunting Horn is one of the supposed support weapons of the game because it can buff your team using music, basically the bard in D&D campaigns. It's simple to use in newer games, but knowing which Hunting Horn has the best buffs you need requires a fair amount of knowledge of the game's RPG mechanics. It's also good at stunning monsters. Switch Axe is a big weapon that focuses on dealing damage. It has two modes. Axe mode, where you deal long-reaching axe swings to charge up energy, which you can use in sword mode, and sword mode is where you can attack faster at the cost of moving slower. Switch Axe deals a lot of damage without sacrificing too much speed and offers many aggressive combat options, but it lacks any form of defense other than dodging. Light Bowgun. They aren't really all that hard to use. It's just your typical third-person shooter weapon, but you need to know which ammo are best, and since ammo is limited, you need to know how much you need, or if it's enough for one monster, or where to get that ammo in case you run out. And since it's the nature of range classes in video games, you are very squishy. A good light bowgun user will rarely, if ever, get hit in a hunt. Heavy bowgun is like the light bowgun but heavy. Into Glaive, you jump around like an idiot. I'm kidding. Although heavy bowguns are really heavier and slower than light bowguns, but you get more powerful ammo and shots in return, and you have a passive shield that blocks anything in front of you as long as you're not shooting. Okay, so here are the last four weapons that I think are the hardest to use in Monster Hunter. Gunlance. It's not particularly difficult, but I have a hard time mastering this weapon. It's like the lance, slow movement, huge shield, but you have ammo. You can do attacks like tiny explosions or big explosions. It looks cool as hell, but I feel like I'm not making as much damage as I could with other weapons. That's why I think Gunlance is kinda hard to use. Into Glaive. It's a fast-hitting spear or pole-like weapon that excels in aerial combat, And like the name says, the Glaive comes with a projectile insect called a Kinsect that attacks a monster. The Kinsect will gather extracts from the monster that will buff the hunter depending on which part the Kinsect attack. A buffed insect Glaive user will gain new attacks. I think it's hard because there's a lot of things you must do in parallel. You have to aim your Kinsect, keep an eye on your buffs, all while dealing damage to the monster, plus the mobility due to the insect Glaive's aerial attacks will make you zip all around at the speed of Nargacuga. A fun weapon that provides a lot of verticality, but you know, my 5-year-old brain can't handle it. Bow, the hardest ranged weapon in Monster Hunter. It's as simple as the name suggests. You have a bow and that's it. The complicated part comes from having to string together moves to maximize your damage with the bow. You're gonna be pressing a lot of buttons to master the bow. It's not hard to learn the button inputs. The hard part is keeping it up the entire hunt. I always feel like I'll get carpal tunnel when I use a bow. And now, it's time for the greatest weapon in Monster Hunter. The Charge Blade. A weapon that covers all your hunting needs. A strong offensive, a strong defensive, and a ton of explosions. Charge Blade has two forms. The sword and shield form where you can do smaller fast attacks to charge up your files, and block with a shield that makes Elder Dragon attacks look like toddler slaps, making you a god of standing there and blocking every nuke the Chinese military can launch at you for making fun of their president Winnie the Pooh. You then combine the sword and shield to form a giant axe where all the files you had charged will be used as explosions that come with your every hit. Giant axe form is slow and lacks the defense the shield offered, but it does so much damage that whatever the hell you were blocking a moment ago with that tiny shield will now be dead to the might of the Charge Blade. The reason why people find Charge Blade hard to use is because it requires a lot of preparation for it to be in its peak condition. But a Charge Blade god like me can do all of that preparation within the span of a few seconds. Fuck what other people say, use a Charge Blade, who cares if it's hard? It was my first weapon in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate and I fucking love it. Let's go, baby! Woo! I'm sorry, I blacked out there for a second. What was I doing again? Where am I? I want my mom. Anyway, all of these are just my opinion on a weapon's difficulty. The best way to know which weapon you'll like is to use it. So try them all out in the training area and something will definitely click. What matters most is that you enjoy playing. Now that I've covered all of the main weapons of Monster Hunter, it's time to move on to the monster part of Monster Hunter. God, the amount of times I said Monster Hunter in this video feels weird saying it now. Monsters from the game are some of the most well-designed monsters in any form of media I've ever seen. They're very unique and you can tell a story just from how they look alone. Like for example, the poster boy, Rathalos. You can tell from its massive wings and red scales that it breathes fire and can fly. Or here, the best monster ever, Rajang. It's an electric ape with horns that shoot out fucking lightning beams from its mouth. And I like how these monsters fit into an existing ecology within the game. It's not just some random dragon, wyvern, or monkey. There's a reason why they are where they are, which is amazing considering how little of a story there is in Monster Hunter games. Not only are these monsters aesthetically amazing, the way they function in battle is also great. Monster Hunter is basically a boss rush. Every enemy in the game is a boss, and some of these are the best bosses ever in video games. They are also very hard. I said that before that Monster Hunter is hard. And I meant that. Ask anyone who fought my boy, Rajang, and more often than not, people will tell you how this big monkey kicked their asses in at least 17 different ways. Couple that with the 14 different weapons you can use, Monster Hunter's combat is freaking amazing. Hunts are like performing a dance with these monsters. I finished these games to completion with nothing left I want to accomplish, but I still keep on coming back just because of combat and these monsters alone. I'm not trying to craft anything or build towards something. It's just me, my Charge Blade, and Rajang beating down paradise. Speaking of builds, the final part of Monster Hunter are the RPG elements. The gameplay loop of Monster Hunter is hunt monsters, gather materials, craft equipment, and then back to hunting monsters to get better armor. Equipment gives you skills. Skills can range from simple attack boosts or more weapon-specific ones like artillery that's useful for Charge Blade and Gunlance. You can use the same weapon but have completely different builds. I'm not going to go deep into it, but trust me when I say that you're going to sink a lot of hours into crafting and making armor sets in order to get the best set of skills you need for a certain weapon or set or whatever it is. Monster Hunter has that steady progression the more you hunt stronger monsters, but no matter how powerful your armor is, nothing is more powerful than your skill progression as a player. Monster Hunter is one of those games where you, the player, levels up in real life the more you play the game. You can equip something weak, but you can still prevail if you know the monster's attack pattern. Having good armor helps, but in the end, it's your skill that wins the hunt. You are not just playing a character in a game going through the motions of the story or world within that game. You are your character. Monster Hunter, for as many games it has, only has one protagonist. You, the hunter. And I think that's fucking amazing. There are so many reasons why I love Monster Hunter, but I don't think I can ever say exactly what I like about it. Its simple premise is like the surface of a frozen lake. Hidden below is a deep, wondrous game full of mechanics, personality, and masterful design. Every facet of Monster Hunter has something that I like, whether it be the annoying mechanics like hot or cold rings or the amazing combat potential of wire bugs. I can't just say one thing whenever someone asks. It's a whole plethora of it's a charge blade. Yeah, that's it. I play Monster Hunter for the charge blade, no contest. Oh, and Rajang. That's it. Yep, those are the two things. The only two reasons why I play Monster Hunter. Yeah. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe or like if you did, or dislike it. I'll still see it. Thanks, YouTube. I am just so in love with this game franchise series thing. I had to make a video, and hopefully I'll do more soon. Anyway, bye.